This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this StockBox interview.
Joining us today is Kerim Sener, the MD of Ariana Resources. Hi Kerim, good to be speaking to you for the first time. How are you?
Hi Mark, glad to join you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to be speaking to you. Of course, Ariana's been around for a long time, but perhaps just give us a snapshot if you can, first of all, perhaps the elevator pitch if you like.
Yes, for sure. So Ariana has been around for a long time. We've been about 2 decades since our AIM listing. We were originally focused on a greenfields exploration portfolio for gold, primarily in Western Turkey. And the work that we've undertaken since then on that portfolio has advanced some of those projects to the point of mining. So the very first project that we got up and running was Kızıltepe, which is located about 2.5 hours drive to the northeast of Izmir, which is on the coast. And we had that operational since 2017, and it's continuing to produce above guidance every year. It's been a fantastic operation. So we've had that in joint venture with our partners, Prosia Construction. And then since 2021, we brought on board an additional partner, Özaltın Holdings, that now holds 53% of the operating company in Turkey. And in that tripartite partnership, we're now going on to develop and indeed commence the mining of the Tavşan deposit, which is located a further 70 kilometers to the northeast of Kızıltepe. So that will be our second mine operational in Turkey.
Okay.
That will be a heap leach operation, whereas our first operation is a CIL tank leach.
Okay.
But between both sites, we'll continue to be producing gold for a while yet.
Okay, good. So you're in production. Okay, that's really good. So is that cash flow is that meaning you can put that into the other projects? You're not as reliant on the market?
Yeah. Correct. And that's what we have been doing, certainly for the last several years now, since we went operational on Kızıltepe in 2017.
Okay, good. So where are these proceeds being deployed then? Is that on your new focus, which is in Bulawayo at the Dokwe project?
In part, that's correct. So what we were able to do in 2021, once we brought Özaltın Holdings on board to help with the development of our portfolio of properties in Turkey, which were all at an advanced stage. So as I mentioned, Tavşan was the next cab off the rank as a gold operation, but we've also got Salınbaş in northeastern Turkey. That's a 1.5 million ounce gold project associated with a copper, gold, molybdenum, porphyry, but there's the associated gold silver zone at Salınbaş itself, which we're looking to focus on. And in fact, we've been undertaking a drilling program there for a number of years now, with money that Özaltın Holding had kicked in. So they put in $8 million into that project specifically, in addition to taking the 53% of that tripartite partnership that we have running. So we, as I said, we've got a series of advanced projects in Turkey, some of which are mining stage, some of which are still in development. But it also enabled us, since 2021, to spread our wings a little bit further. So we've developed a portfolio of properties in Cyprus. That's copper gold on volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits. That's within a company that we refer to as Venus Minerals. And in addition to that, we're operational in the Balkan regions, primarily around Kosovo, North Macedonia at the moment. And that's in partnership with Newmont. We've got a strategic exploration alliance with them, and they're funding a large part of the work that we're doing with greenfields exploration in that region. And the most advanced project there, just to bring investors up to speed on that, is the Slivova project, which we've been earning into the first 51% hurdle on. We're just about to formalise the completion of that now. Okay. So, we've been able to do a number of things, but yes, perhaps most significantly, most recently, following an extensive due diligence program that we had running since 2023, we completed a merger with Rockover Holdings, which held 100% of the Zimbabwe Dokwe asset. So once we completed that merger midway through last year, bringing Rockover Holdings and Ariana Resources together in an all-scrip merger, we've now taken 100% control of the Dokwe asset.
Okay. So is the remit effectively of Ariana to find projects, to get them into production, and then rinse and repeat effectively? Because it sounds like that's sort of what you've done. You've got 2 in Turkey there, 1 in the Balkans making revenue, and I guess the goal would be revenue as soon as you can in Zimbabwe.
Oh, very much so. And I mean, what we're particularly skilled at is identifying high quality exploration opportunities that have got the potential to be developed as a producing mine. And then to try and identify those things at a sufficiently early stage, but not at an ultra high risk stage. So perhaps not at the real sort of greenfields end of things. Normally we're looking at projects that have got some drilling on it. And we've got all the skill sets within the company to really advance those projects and de-risk them. And then as a result of that process, we can then move those projects to the feasibility stage, as we're now doing with Dokwe. And then ultimately, we'd look to work on the development of the Dokwe asset as a production opportunity. And we're investigating ways that we can do that.
And that might involve you taking it fully yourself, or maybe ideally looking for a partner, or what would be the ideal?
Well, potentially, absolutely. To go on and do it ourselves, because we've obviously gained a huge amount of experience operating in Turkey over the last several years now, and we know exactly what we need to do. And absolutely, as we grow the team and as we have the sufficient resources to be able to apply to the development of a project like Dokwe, there's no reason why we can't take it all the way through to mining in our own right. But we'd also look at opportunities, as we in fact alluded to potentially work with existing partners. So our existing partners have visited the Dokwe site. So our part of the Turkish team, the JV team, came to site last year to conduct an initial review. They're still reviewing the opportunity, and we're continuing to share information with them. So there are certainly some synergies there, and we're looking to explore those further.
Okay. Well, let's just get a sense of where you are at the moment on Dokwe then. So I think the recent announcement was you increased the in-pit resource by 9%. So what work is going on? Did you say you're in that sort of feasibility stage at the moment?
Yes, we are at the feasibility stage because Dokwe completed its pre-feasibility study in 2022.
Right.
And we completed a pre-feasibility study update last year, which looked at the enhanced gold price scenario that we're now in, because the pre-feasibility was run at $1,650 an ounce. We then ran it at $2,000 an ounce. Even that's outdated now. So it's actually one of the reasons why in the latest resource update, we've opted for the pit optimizations at $2,750 an ounce. And it's in part due to that, but also in part due to the somewhat changed modeling parameters on the geology following an extensive review of the geology, geochemistry, other technical aspects of the project, that we were able to put this new resource estimate and block model together. And then following that, we were able to undertake a new pit optimization at that elevated gold price. And that, of course, has captured more of the resources measured and indicated primarily. So we've got just shy of 1 million ounces in measured and indicated categories. Okay. So the resource is already substantially de-risked. There's a zone of inferred resources at further depth and partly along strike. And just with some additional drilling on that, and that's drilling that we're potentially going to undertake as part of the feasibility study, we can potentially convert those inferred resources into indicated or higher categories. So there's a number of things that we're working on at the moment. We've planned out a drilling program that we're hoping to get underway by around mid-year.
Okay.
And that drilling program will then inform the next stage of the resource update and indeed reserve update, ultimately for the feasibility, and the metallurgical test work that we need to do. There is already a substantial volume of metallurgical test work that's available to us, and that has been absolutely sufficient for a pre-feasibility study. But there's certain additional work that we feel is warranted, particularly in how we look at the processing of the oxide transition, then ultimately into sulfide part of the ore body. And we need additional material to be able to do that, and the drilling program will achieve that.
So that drilling is set for mid-year. So just a couple of thoughts on the feasibility study. Is that fully costed for? How's it going so far? And when are you expecting to complete it?
Sure. So we're expecting to complete the feasibility study by early next year.
Right.
And at the moment, we're continuing to work at full capacity towards the feasibility study. The most important aspect of that was the revised resource, because we'd spent several months completely rebuilding our geological model. And as I said, this was based on a huge amount of work involving PXRF analysis on about 42,000 meters of drill core that's there on site at Dokwe, relogging the core, really pulling apart the geology so that we've got a much more confident, more robust geological model upon which we can pin everything. Because that's really where the critical risks lie in the development of any mining project. You've got to understand your ore body. So that's why we've specifically focused on that, and we've costed a lot of work around that aspect.
And is the feasibility study, is it all costed for to take you through to completion?
Yes, we're working, as you know, on the ASX listing of the company. So that is something that we had sort of in play towards the back end of last year. There were certain reasons why we put a halt on that, but we're continuing to work towards the ASX listing this year. And we're just sort of ensuring that we've got all the right pieces of the puzzle at the appropriate time. And one of the key things, of course, was the new resource estimate, because everything ultimately hinges around that. So there are certain things that we've been working towards, so that we can ensure that we have the best run possible at the ASX.
Okay, that sounds good. Just a final question I've got from you, and I don't know what you can answer. I don't know if you've got these numbers to hand, but I'd like to try and get a snapshot of a fair valuation for Ariana here. The market cap's what, 35 million, something like that today. So I mean, so in terms of revenues, can you disclose what you can disclose on current revenues, cash flow, etc.? And then any NPVs that you have as well, NPVs for the previous projects, but also NPVs for Dokwe.
Sure. So perhaps starting with Dokwe then. The last pre-feasibility update that we ran, that I briefly covered, that was based on the $2,000 US dollar per ounce case. And that was only dealing with the Dokwe North part of the Dokwe project. So that's an important point. Dokwe North is the only part of the project that fit within the pre-feasibility. We've since added Dokwe Central, which is located 2 kilometers to the south. So we did a resource update on that. That was part of the latest update, in fact. And that's going to add tremendously to the overall picture. But the last pre-feasibility update that we did was based only on Dokwe North at $2,000, and we've got a project NPV 10% of 160 million US dollars, and an IRR of just over 40%. So, if we were to rerun those numbers with Dokwe Central added, the change in the profile, the life of mine, all of those things, they'll have an effect. And of course, if we ran the gold price at 2,750, you can imagine that the number that we're talking about is quite a bit larger. So that alone, discounted, constitutes a huge part of the overall value of Ariana Resources at this point in time. But of course, we've got a 23.5% stake in an operating mine in Turkey, and that's been producing for 8 years now. We're producing about 20,000 ounces per annum out of that. Then we've got the Tavşan operation that's coming on stream a little later this year. We're just waiting for the completion of the laydown of the leach liners. But otherwise, that build is complete. So that will be producing up to about 30,000 ounces per annum. So between those two operations, Dokwe, and then, we look at perhaps on the smaller end of our asset base, the Slovovo project in Kosovo, of which we currently have rights to 51% of. And Slovovo has a resource around the same size as Kızıltepe was when we originally brought it into production. So 176,000 ounces.
Okay.
So that on its own, and again, we did do a preliminary economic assessment on that about a couple of years ago now, and we ran that at $1,835 an ounce,
Okay.
and we had a project pre-tax NPV of $27 million and an IRR of about 30%. So, whichever way you slice and dice it, we've got a number of components of our business that can all be valued in their different ways. And of course, some you could consider higher risk than others. An operating mine is a lower risk, and an asset that's still at PEA stage in Kosovo is somewhat higher risk. But does that match our market capitalization at this point in time? Well, that's ultimately for the market to decide. But I think you probably understand where I'm going with all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not going to ask you, because it's always an inappropriate question to ask a CEO to put the market cap value on. But just from looking at that, I could say even a conservative value could be sort of circa 300 million US or something like that, just based on the NPV of Dokwe, your revenues from Turkey and the new revenues from Turkey when the second mine comes online, and then of course that sort of 27 million there from Kosovo. So the market's tough at the minute, though, isn't it? Valuations are down. What can a company like you do to give investors confidence?
Yeah, well, one of the things obviously is the ASX listing. We feel that there's generally a better assessment of value for ASX gold companies, companies listed on the ASX, operating, be they in Western Australia or somewhere in Africa or somewhere else in the world. But generally, there is somewhat more of a premium attached to a valuation for whatever reason. But we've had a look at all the stats on that, and that seems to be the case.
Okay. Well, Kerim Sener, the MD of Ariana Resources, thank you very much for your time today. Hope to catch up again soon.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.